What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined, as always, by my trusty co-host, Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, how you doing this week, man?
The wheel in the sky keeps on turning, my friend.
Uh, Dave is alluding to Wheel of Time, a show we will be talking about. I'm interested to hear what our thoughts are on this because it's like the next Game of Thrones play, kind of. We're also going to be talking about three big movies that came out this weekend. Again, movies continue to be back, or at least are being put out, and then a huge album that came out. But Dave, we're starting once again at a very somber spot with the podcast today. Feels like we've done this way too many times since we've started the pod. Another uh, rap artist has been murdered. Um, untimely death for Young Dolph. Um, only 36 years old, gunned down outside of a was a donut shop that he had been promoting in his I guess it's his hometown of Memphis, right? Memphis, Tennessee. Um, really sad. Uh, really sad. Just news that came across last week. I saw a lot of people um, as always happens, like sending condolences, but also just kind of mentioning like that they didn't even recognize how much an artist like Young Dolph really meant to them, and I really just like don't even know what more there is to say because I feel like again this just keeps happening. It's like feels almost like par for the course at this point. How are you feeling after hearing the news?
Yeah, obviously it's really sad, really disappointing, really unfortunate. Perhaps not surprising. It's much like Nipsey Hussle's death. You have the hometown hero getting killed in his hometown, not being the aggressor, just being gunned down. And yeah, I mean, to your point, Dolph had been a frequent fan of this bakery or donut place, whatever it was, for years and years. There's like really old social media of him just being like, "Hey, I really like this place. You guys in Memphis should go here too because I'm already doing this." It's pretty great. Um, and yeah, it just obviously it sucks, and you saw the outpouring, right? And I think that speaks a lot to Young Dolph's career. We haven't really talked about him too much on the pod, but he's been very prolific for a while now, and I think just speaks to something we've acknowledged in the past, but like post 3-6, post Juicy J's high point, Memphis has really blossomed as a hip hop scene, independent of the larger southern hip hop that we associate with the Atlanta sound. And Dolph, alongside like newcomers like NLE Choppa and others, Key Glock, there's a bunch, Duke Deuce, Dolph seemed to kind of be like the head of that movement, and that's why he was so beloved in Memphis, and he still lived there, and it's just a shame, honestly, and I guess it's one of those things where if you don't get out and you stay where you're from, there's always that risk, right? On the other hand, we saw what happened to Pop Smoke. He did get out, and he still got killed. So just really sad, but I mean, there's one saving grace. He did make a lot of music, so there's a lot of music there to be enjoyed. So that's something, I guess. But yeah, it's just obviously senseless and really
Yeah,
sad.
yeah. There was a picture of him with his family going around. Just really like breaks your heart, and I think especially with some of these artists, they can feel so like larger than life, um, and sometimes it can make it feel really surreal and almost like hard to really connect with. But he just seemed, like you mentioned, very down to earth person, someone that was trying to lift uh, this bakery up, lift other people up. He had been grinding, like you said, for a while. So to see him, his life come to an end like this is just incredibly sad. Any like young Dolph song that you'd recommend people go listen to? Anything that you really like?
That's a good question. Uh, he's made a bunch of songs with Key Glock. I'd say check that out. Key Glock's a lot younger than him, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like Dolph was really successful. He's probably doesn't have like a huge like mainstream presence as a rapper, but he kind of does. Like he's as big as just about anyone, honestly. Especially when you think about how he was talked about by his peers. So there's a lot of music to get into, and like I said, it's a little different because it's Memphis music, and that's what's cool. So yeah, it's again really sad, but at least there's something left behind.
Well, go listen to Young Dolph, give him some plays. Let's move on to some new music that came out this week. Kaytranada returning to the scene. I mean, Bubba was end of 2019, so it didn't feel, I guess, as long. I guess kind of blends into that end of year mix. I think that was actually December, if I'm remembering, like
It
right before
was
we did
hmm
our like best of.
almost 2 years
Um,
ago.
Bubba is an album I really liked. Obviously, 99.9% is undeniably a great album, and I know you're a big fan of Kaytranada. So seeing Intimidated, the EP come out, was pretty excited just to kind of see. And it's a short 3-track EP, little taste for us. What did you think of the tracks?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it had a lot of the qualities we associate with Kaytranada music, and a lot of the reasons he's upheld as a exciting DJ, exciting producer, but also an interesting one that stands out. And it's great that he's been recognized lately. He did win 2 Grammys, thanks to Bubba, uh, last year, which is awesome. Someone who got nominated for Best New Artist like 10 years into his career. We talked a lot about the fallacies of Best New Artist last week, the Grammys. Anyway, nice to see him getting acknowledged by the greater industry. And I think it was nice that all these songs had vocalists. That's something Kaytranada has acknowledged, that he thinks his production style, his beats, probably sound better with vocals. And I thought it was pretty cool. Again, not like you have any expectations for a brief EP, but I feel like a lot of times EDM EPs, they come out and you might not realize they came out. But on the other hand, EDM albums are kind of rare. All the famous DJs, they don't do album mode that much. You're kind of lucky when you get the EP. So even if Kaytranada is more prolific than most DJs, it's still great to get this EP. And yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked all the tracks. I think there wasn't anything that like blew me away as like, oh, Kaytranada is working on a new sound or has this new trick necessarily. But I really just thought they all sounded really shiny, really well produced. Obviously, the track with Thundercat getting his like high pitched singing on it, obviously reminds me of Dragon Ball Z Durag or whatever that was.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Durag. Yeah.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Durag. Um, it just really brought a smile to my face thinking about that track. And for someone that we bagged on a lot, the song with her, I actually thought it was really good and sounded super smooth. And I was like, this is probably a pretty good pairing, and maybe this will actually inspire her to make something interesting.
I had the exact same thoughts. And I think this is a great example of her talent, you know, standing in the face of past criticisms. The production choices she does with her own music is rarely interesting or engaging, but she's still a talented artist. She still is a good singer. And even if, she wasn't playing the guitar on this or anything, uh, pairing her abilities with Kaytranada's production, yeah, pretty cool. Honestly, one of my favorite her songs, kind of by default. So it'd be nice if she thought about that in the future, but I won't hold my breath.
I mean, I would love it if she even brought him on to produce like 1 or 2 tracks on her albums. It's gonna make it more interesting than what we got last year or this year, I
Mm.
guess. Yeah, and the other track with Hami, I actually thought that was maybe my favorite out of all of them. Just like just so it moved a little bit faster than the other two. This was more upbeat, and I really liked his just like spoken word cadence to it. Just brought this like real, I don't know, gravitas to it. It felt
Mm.
like so.
Yeah,
Just all 3 tracks are great. Looking
yeah.
forward to whatever's next.
Shout out Matt Kami. He's a newer Griselda signing. Had a well liked album from earlier in the year. Yeah, I think my favorite song's the Her song, just because of that like thump, almost like drum and bass music. Uh, from Kaytranada. I thought was really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's a little three pack. You know, you can't you just be happy if you like the songs. If not, move on. It's all good.
We already put the her song onto our nostalgia best of 2021, so check that out. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, or if you're listening to us and you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet, go to youtube.com/nostalgia pod. Follow us there. Dave, go easy on me. Adele's back, and I've got mixed feelings about Adele 30. Um, it's been 6 years since we got an Adele album. 25 came out in 2015. We've been waiting. She's been going through some stuff. The album is good. Let's just start there. The songs are good. The album is good. It was not what I expected, and I'm grappling with that. Were you pleased, and did you feel satisfied with what we got from Adele 30? Let's just start there.
Yeah, no, I was pleased. I was satisfied. I I think it's really interesting to think about having like expectations for Adele, an artist that really keeps everything at arm's reach. As you said, 6 years between albums. I'm sure the label would have liked that gap to be just a little shorter,
Yeah,
given
3 years.
incredible stature
Mhm.
as the biggest artist of the 21st century when it comes to sales. Like she's this megalith, right? So
Mhm.
to get her fourth album at last, uh, I was just curious to hear it, because she has such a track record. Um, and yeah, she got divorced. It's evident.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is where I guess where I'm feeling a little. I don't know if dissatisfied, but just like surprised. Maybe my expectations were subverted. We get "Easy on Me" as the single, right? Mega hit. Seems right in line with most of the Adele singles we've gotten in terms of like structure. It's the song that starts off pretty low, has like the high pitched Adele booming voice, just like totally throwing you into your emotions. You feel like you're a mess by the end of this thing. And then I feel like a lot more of the album was toned back. And you didn't hear Adele
Hmm.
necessarily hitting those like high notes. There weren't as many ballads maybe on this as I expected. Um, and for me, that left me surprised. Definitely felt like my um, expectations were subverted. I listened to this album 3 times though, and I was like, "This is a really good album." Every time I
Yeah.
listen, and there's I think this is an album that we say this about a lot of them though. Really, you get a lot out of re-listens because you pick up on little things, you pick up on sequencing, and I'm sure everybody's seen the news about how Adele asked Spotify not to make the autoplay random or whatever, jump around.
The big play button when you open an album was defaulting to shuffle. So I didn't even
So
use
stupid.
that button for years. I would just click on the first song so it didn't shuffle. Kind of a
How is
stupid
that?
thing that shuffle was the default. And
How is
we
that?
needed
That's the
Adele
default.
of all people to use her poll to pull this off of Spotify, right? Like kind
I,
of nonsense that this was even a thing.
yeah. So I'm glad we're talking about this. That was my first reaction. I was like, Spotify, this is really what you've been doing all these years. Like albums, most of the time are sequenced for a reason, the way that they are, and then you're just totally subverting that. That makes no sense to me. Um, but yeah, so I feel like this is a bit more toned back than what we got on tracks on albums like 25 or 21, but still really really impressed with this. I saw you tweeting about it a bit today. You're a fan.
Yeah, and I think to your point about it being, lower tempo, being not as big. She said that was intentional. She didn't want to make another hello. She didn't want that like it's I think it's funny. There's a few reasons. But, like she doesn't want like that karaoke song again, but she also just doesn't want that like mammoth world beating song, which is so funny because no matter what she made, it was going to be a world beater anyway, right? Easy on Me, as you said, huge hit thus far. It's been number one since it came out. Set the Spotify single day streaming record, NBD. It also set the single week for a song record. But Easy on Me isn't like challenging to Adele's vocal abilities or anything, right? It's kind of a conventional song, but because it's Adele, it's gonna hit and sounds really good. And she just has such incredible vocals and amazing pitch and all that, that even if it's just kind of a solid down the middle song, it sounds amazing. And obviously that's bearing out with the song's success. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's some songs where she belts it at the end, but I feel like those are more like emotional songs. They're not exactly songs that like maybe people are gonna like jump out of their seat to listen to all the time. The way something like Adele would dominate pop radio, even though it's not exactly what you'd think of as like a hit popular song.
Yeah. It's I think it just speaks, and I think you really summed this up well, that whatever Adele did for this album was going to be huge unless like she somehow completely missed the mark, which would have been the biggest shock probably of the year. Um I think what I found really impressive about this album was she's always had a knack for writing personal songs, but this album at points was like so personal that it left me feeling like uncomfortable at times. Like, especially on first listen, hearing a lot of like the voicemails that she had her voice notes about like,
Mm.
you know, something happened last night and I'm hungover and I feel anxious and paranoid. The stuff with her child, like this was like really raw in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And I appreciated that the album wasn't totally this. You know, we get a lot of songs I think bring some levity and a little bit like, "Hey, I got divorced, but I'm single now. Let's enjoy this." But
Mm.
still, some moments that felt like very very personal. How did you feel about like those tracks?
I did like the touches, honestly. I
Hmm.
thought they were effective. These like
Yeah,
interludes and outros and all that. Yeah, I thought it was good. Um, Man, yeah, it's also really funny to think like as you said, like she's talking about going through divorce, becoming a co-parent. Her, you know, the baby dad, ex-husband lives across the street, literally, to make make raising their kids so easy. Honestly, pretty awesome to hear that. But
yeah.
in the meantime, like Adele has obviously gone through this amazing physical transformation, but
Hmm.
also is kind of just like becoming a celebrity,
Yeah.
which like just an actual celebrity, right? Like she was at the Lakers game with Rich Paul, the agent, who's her like the superstar power couple now, you know. But like you contrast that, like all this like obvious like big celebrity as she's become a LA person, contrasting that with the music, right? Which is still not compromised at all. Like I honestly love it, and it's so funny too. Look at this track list, right? You'll see Inflow, who was all over the Little Sims album that we love from earlier this year. You see Max Martin, notably on one song that I really liked, but
Like
dominating the
Kirsten.
credits is Greg Kurstin, and
Yeah.
it's so funny because we've been remarking a little bit recently that Greg Kurstin, maybe we weren't seeing the impact of
Hmm.
some of his recent collaborations, like the Foo Fighters album from this year. So
Right. Right.
Greg Kurstin, just kind of getting the check, getting the bag. You know what? Why he was doing that? Because he was working with fucking Adele, and he was had more important things to do.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
I'll say it worked.
in a lot of ways, this is like Greg Kirsten, like LeBron taking like 20 games off and then coming back for the playoffs and just totally like dominating to the finals. You know, like
Yeah,
that's basically what this was. And yeah, the album is just meticulously produced and fabulous. Um, why don't we talk about the tracks that stood out to us? She mentioned one that had Max Martin on. That's got to be "Can I Get It?"
correct. Yeah, I love Can I Get It, especially in the sequence of the album because it's this like breath of up tempo production,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it's Adele making this like like pop rock song in a sense. Like it's like all guitar, and I think that song is a fucking banger. I mean, I think I Drink Wine's gonna be the second single, but Can I Get It should be a single. Like that is a straight up hit right there. I love the track.
Yeah, I definitely stood out. It's a unique sounding song on the album, and it's a really fun song. I think it really shows off something Adele hasn't done a lot, which I mean,
Exactly.
this like sing songy, but like kind of it was like rapping almost at points, like really
It's
impressively
it's
done.
way more poppy than like, Rolling in the Deep or Set Fire to the Rain. It's completely removed from that, but still really good. Just again speaks to the talent. But as you
Yeah,
said, yeah, it's untapped.
and the way it like kind of comes in and out, because she does a lot of singing on the verses, but then it gets to that chorus, and the chorus is just absolute like pop magic, like
Yeah.
perfection.
What do you expect from Max Martin?
Exactly. Um, I really like the track that follows. Can I get it? I drink wine.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, it's very jazzy, but like I think this is maybe my favorite Adele vocal performance. Just the way she kind of goes all over the place. It's very like subdued and like held back. But the second half, especially when she starts to get the chorus in the background up behind her, just like really, really good. And just feels very triumphant, which, you mentioned like the first part of the album is heavy. Like "Cry Your Heart Out" is a light sounding song. Um, then you get "Can I Get It?" And then you get "I Drink Wine." That feels like a real like turning point for the album, where it's like, okay, she's gone through it, she's moving past it. Now she's like looking at these like tough times where she's drinking all of her problems away, but the album feels like it's turning more to like, okay, I've moved past the divorce. Let's start to look at some other stuff, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, I drink wine was probably my favorite, at least in the middle. I mean, I think "Easy on Me" is like clearly maybe the best like ballad and like vocal performance
Mhm.
on the album,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, I like that one a lot. What other songs stood out to you?
So right before Can I Get It? So I think this middle sequence is really interesting. You have Oh My God, and that has kind of like Afrobeat adjacent production. Again, something else untapped in terms of what Adele has done to this point. Really cool. I also thought, towards the end, I think it's was it Hold On and To Be Loved. You know, she's letting it fly at the end there. Vocally. Again, just kind of showing it off in case you forgot, because again, a song like Easy on Me isn't
Yeah,
like it like Hello. So like you forget. I don't think people forget, but you might be perhaps forgetting that Adele just has this amazing vocal range, but you didn't want to use it all the time on this album, and that was obviously by design.
yeah. Hold on. To me is like in the same Adele sphere as "Make You Feel My Love." Her cover of that just feels very
Mm,
much in the same vein, and I just love when Adele does this like very soulful, uh, stripped back kind of song where her vocals are just really, really driving it. But like you said, not like in an overpowering way. I also really liked the song "All Night Parking" with Errol Gardner. I just thought that was like a really smooth, lighthearted, and like almost kind of like it, I don't know. It almost had like a James Blake type production to it, where it had like that like ticking like drum in the background with like some nice keys flowing over it. Everything kind of intertwining well. Um, really, really liked that one. But really, I don't think there's a bad track on here. Tracks I like more than others, but I don't know if there's a bad
yeah,
track
exactly,
necessarily.
totally.
Um, and any other thoughts on this? I mean, just glad to have Adele back.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very interested to see how this album sells in the years to come. Like, give it some time and see how Adele's star power translates to commercial sales as streaming is continuing to evolve and dominate. Like I said, Adele is like the titan of selling music this year, this century, right? The number one best selling album of the 21st century is 21, and the number four best selling album of the 21st century is 25. Like the only person in the 2010s to have two diamond albums. Like she's just this ridiculous commercial force, and I want to see how that manifests nowadays with as the landscape has changed. We've seen artists like Taylor Swift, huge fan base, huge institution as a pop figure. We've seen them continue to sell records while also do big streaming numbers. Right, like I said with Easy on Me, Adele's still dominating streaming too. Um, but I want to see what those sales look like. 21. 31 million records sold. Album's 10 years old. Nuts, you know? So I'm curious to see where 30 gets, in the years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no doubt it'll probably get somewhere close. I imagine people are going to love this. I was thinking festivals done well since we come back for the most part, aside from obviously the Astroworld incident,
Mm.
tragedy. Um, Adele's got to be probably headlining. It's
Mm.
Coachella, I say, feels like a lock. Glastonbury, I mean, they already announced Billie Eilish. I imagine if Adele wants to play, they'll sign her.
Did she
So
do festivals the last time around? Because what she does is world tour, obviously. She'll
that's true.
tour this shit for a whole year.
Yeah, maybe
Well,
she doesn't want to split the check or whatever. I don't know
yeah,
how
yeah,
the
like the
structure
non-compete
works.
with the local arenas. I don't know, because
Yeah,
I mean, the last time she toured, you know, for 25. I mean, it's hundreds of million grossing tour. So I don't know if the festivals are in the cards necessarily.
she
Um,
did Glastonbury 2016. I wonder
okay,
if they would have
yeah,
her back.
obviously British, so there's that connection there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously anyone would take her in a heartbeat. It's just about
Oh,
how
yeah.
calculated it's going to be. You
It
know what
seems
I'd
like
love to
maybe
see,
she only
honestly?
did Glastonbury. What was that?
I'd love to see like a Miss Americana style documentary about Adele. Just because, like I said, Adele, at least until recently, has kept everything very private. We don't really know much about what Adele's up to. There might be some tabloid stuff, but it's all surface level. She's, maybe even like doing her press now, we know the talking points about the album and the divorce and the kid and all that, but like I'd love to see the studio process, the way we got Antonoff and Taylor figuring out how to make Getaway Car in real time. I'd love to see something like that for Adele.
Yeah, I would watch the shit out of that, dude. Would love to see that. Um, well, it's time to move off of Music Dave again. Check out our Nostalgia Best of 2021 on Spotify. And we're moving on to the Wheel of Time. Amazon adapting the Robert Jordan novel series as their big epic fantasy. Um, Amazon's got Lord of the Rings coming next year, so in a
Mhm.
way, this kind of feels like we want this to be Game of Thrones. We're gonna put money into this, but it's not the one necessarily. It's not the highest stakes for them. But
Mm.
Rafe Judkins is the showrunner. We got a couple episodes dropped, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
3 episodes are out on Amazon Prime Video, and it'll be 8 episode season, concluding on Christmas Eve. And it's already been renewed for a second season, which is currently in production. And like you said, Amazon Studios first but not last attempt at having a dominant fantasy IP in the wake of Game of Thrones. But Lord of the Rings is coming from them next year. The Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon, is coming from HBO next year. So maybe the window is closing. I don't know. But the Wheel of Time is finally here. It's been something that they've tried to adapt in one form or another, various people, various companies, for a long time. This is a uh, just as great selling fantasy series as The Song of Ice and Fire is Game of Thrones. It's just as popular on the book side of things, and even started before Game of Thrones. But I think culturally, Thrones kind of like beat them to the punch in a certain sense. And hearing stuff about breaking the wheel in the Wheel of Time show, it's like, you might have invented that technically on the literary side of things, but when I hear someone say break the wheel, I think of like Cersei Lannister or Tywin or Tyrion or something.
yep, 100%. So we're only gonna be talking about the first episode. Um, Man, I don't know. I guess like my thought on this, it follows Rosamund Pike, who's plays Moraine, I believe is the way you
Yeah.
pronounce the name.
Or
Who's a
Gandalf stand-in.
yeah, basically like a witch wizard character who is trying to find the young adult who is
Mm.
going to be what the dragon, the reincarnation
Yes.
of the dragon.
So they
I mean,
don't like fuck up the world at the end of time. It's like a cyclical prophetic thing, the usual fantasy tropes and whatnot.
Yeah, and so you got Rosamund Pike, running around, using her magic powers to fight off these orc stand-in
Yes.
uh, creatures.
The
Uh,
Trollocs.
yeah, you have Priyanka Bose being pushed into a river. That was her, right? Priyanka, or was
Think
she?
so.
Yeah. Um,
Right in the beginning.
so you got some exciting stuff happening here and there. It just didn't grab me, and I think I just felt very like I don't know if it was the execution or if it was just the story overall didn't grab
Mm.
me, but I kind of left being like, "There's a lot going on here." I don't know if any of it was particularly well done, and I feel like it just is a miss for me. Well, how did you feel though?
Yeah, watching the pilot, I was left with thinking, oh, this could be cool. I think it could be cool, but I don't think it's super compelling as a pilot be- because like it's hard, right? Like you have all these young characters, these four young characters who go on this journey with Rosamund Pike and her like warrior buddy, right? And you kind of like see where it's going, right? They're gonna go on this journey, and you have this battle in this first episode, a pretty protracted, long action scene with the Trollocs attacking the Twin Rivers
Way
home
too
they
long.
have, and I thought it was actually pretty solid from an action standpoint, but I think it's perhaps misjudged to have that be our like inciting conflict because we don't know who these people are yet. We're still learning all the words. You're getting a lot thrown at you early on, which I respect. I like that they're just throwing us in with the lore, pick it up as you go along. Game of Thrones does the same thing. That's how the books work too. But I couldn't help but see like, oh, I see the DNA of Lord of the Rings. I see the TV side DNA from Game of Thrones a little bit, and it's not necessarily fair to just immediately compare their work to its peers, but when you're deciding if you want to invest in something, I feel like it comes up. They shot this in Prague. I think it looks pretty nice. I thought the river set looked good. From what I understand from the advanced reviews, the critics have seen 6 of the episodes. It continues to look nice. But I think you got to really be like interested in like the appeal of this world. A world where only the women uh, can do magic.
Wield this power, yeah.
You know, um, you have to be interested. I think in learning more about that to want to go because I think as like a TV example of TV, it doesn't necessarily like immediately compel you. In a sense, I had very similar feelings watching this as I did watching The Witcher season 1 on Netflix, in which I
Mm.
watched half of that first season before bowing out. So I think this will do decently for people that are interested and like fantasy, and book fans certainly have wanted this for a long time. Again, it has a lot of fans, but I think it's a bit of a tougher sell for people that aren't kind of already in the bag for something like this.
Yeah, I do think for me, like really throwing you into like the fantasy like lore and like all like the lingo and stuff was a bit of like a I don't know if turn off is the right word, but just kind of was like, okay. Um, I can sit with this, but I didn't find Rosamund Pike to be particularly like I don't know enthusiastic. Maybe is the right
Hmm.
word.
Which we know
Maybe
she
her.
has in her, but yeah, the writing wasn't setting her up for it.
I thought the CGI kind of sucked too. Like when she's using all her powers and like
Hmm.
the stuff swirling around, really didn't think that came like looked that great.
I actually
Um,
enjoyed it just because it was so much brighter than the other action, which was happening at night, so it was dark.
that's true.
Like it was blue. It
Yeah,
was like, oh, this is appealing
really
to the
catchy.
eye because it's different.
Yeah, and I think overall for me, like I was trying to think about like what made Game of Thrones something that people could get into, and I'll even admit like at first with Thrones, like it was hard for me to get into that as well. So maybe fantasy just is not my
Yeah,
genre.
you're just a fool in the beginning. I was on from the jump.
You were. I think what made Thrones something a lot of people could get into, maybe even people that aren't big fantasy fans, is it starts off right away with the White Walkers, but then they're kind of sidelined for a while, and it's a pretty straightforward like a bunch of people trying to take power and like all this infighting, and that is like a pretty straightforward premise that can suck people in, and then you can start to introduce these like kind of out there fantasy elements as you go. I don't think the dragons like if that to me doesn't really scream like out there fantasy. Things like magic powers, the many faced gods, White Walkers, zombies, basically like that sort of stuff's a little more out there. And so I think when you throw a lot of people right in the deep end with this fantasy stuff without there being maybe more of a premise to like bite onto that's not all fantasy, it becomes I think a little bit more difficult. That's at least like where my brain got to in understanding why I might have liked Thrones more than this. Um, but we'll see. I mean, I, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is going to be the next Game of Thrones. My money would be on either Lord of the Rings or House of Dragon next year. But
Right, of course.
do you want to finish this? You want to watch all eight?
I'm definitely going to give it at least a little bit more time. Because that's the thing. It's right. Thrones had impeccable writing. That's what can bring
Mm.
people in. You learn the characters, you appreciate the characters, things make sense, right? This pilot, like there was no chance for anything to like, happen in that regard. Now, if the writing doesn't pick up too much, or hopefully not get a sense of wheel spinning on the journey, that'd be awfully, unfortunate if that was to happen. But I want to give the world a little bit more time because I think the potential, like you said, right, like setting it up, this Trolloc attack, this Dark One bad guy, unseen there, right? They might not actually come into play all that much, and it might not be super like good versus evil end of the world all the time. And yeah, there'll be some magic, but I'm willing to see where that goes a little bit. It's funny though, like there's been a lot of attempts like this recently, right? Like the HBO had the Nevers. We didn't stick with that, and it doesn't seem like anyone did. His Dark Materials, Apple's Foundation, which I definitely still liked. Brave New World and Peacock. There's been so many things, and it's like, yeah, I think at the end of the day, we kind of know what the best ones are probably going to be because we just can trust the execution, and that's House of the Dragon, we assume, and hopefully Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings was such an investment for Amazon. They spent 10 million episode on Wheel of Time. That's really substantial. That's more than Game of Thrones first season was costing
Insane.
an episode. It's not as much as the last season of Game of Thrones either, but it's not nothing. Um, so I'm gonna give it at least a little bit more time. See what happens.
Well, maybe we'll be checking back in. Drop us your thoughts if you all like it and you comment enough, like enough. Maybe we'll give the people what they want. But Dave, well, why don't we move on to another big piece of IP, Ghostbusters,
Mhm.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. Um, been a while for the Ghostbusters. Been a while for the uh the franchise, and they're back, baby. With sorry, just needed to give out the sigh because that's kind of how I feel about the movie. But with Jason Reitman at the helm,
Mhm.
um, who is experienced in these like young adult type movies. And did you like the original Ghostbusters? You a fan?
Yeah, so notably Reitman, obviously the son of Ivan Reitman, the director of the original Ghostbusters. Yeah, so like I didn't really see it as a kid. There's two things, 80s era stuff that I didn't really like have a relationship to as a kid. It was Back to the Future and Ghostbusters because I was raised on Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. That was my shit. So I don't think I even saw Ghostbusters until I like, went to college, honestly. So yeah, it wasn't a thing that I picked up, but honestly, it's not really a kids movie in the first place.
Uh,
But yeah, I didn't have much of a relationship with Ghostbusters.
yeah, which is actually it's really funny to me because I feel like Ghostbusters, at least recently, it's been 32 years since the Ghostbusters movie was released. Has it now kind of become a kids movie? And I don't know if that's
Well,
like,
certainly with this one.
well, yes, with this one, but I think even the original, like, I know people who have shown their children under like 10 years old the original Ghostbusters, and there's a lot of like sexual innuendo and just like lewd stuff in that.
Yeah, the humor in general is more for adults.
Absolutely, and so uh, so. I think the movie makes a lot of sense for the direction it went in. You know, this really, I think, like we both premise is a young adult movie at its core, but it just I'm kind of baffled at how it got here. I guess it's probably the commercial viability of like selling Slimer toys or like muffin or was it the Marshmallow Man toys and stuff like
Right.
that. The costumes for Halloween, 80s children becoming parents who are giving their kids this nostalgia. But I did not really need a Ghostbusters movie in my life. I'm a fan to an extent. I like the original movie, the 1984 one. Um, so we got this. Did you like Ghostbusters Afterlife, Dave?
I was entertained by it. I don't think it's like impressive. I think it's like it's really safe
Mhm.
and kind of frustrating because it's doing a lot of things that we've come to recognize from the revitalization of franchises. And I should say, I guess Blockbuster, but not even like Ghostbusters is amazing Blockbuster, but as you say, it's become a franchise in its own right, and that's just this overwhelming nod to nostalgia and fan service. Think, of course, of the Force Awakens and Jurassic World. I think are the best examples that also were complete successes. To be clear, at least from a business standpoint, and I guess big picture, seeing Ghostbusters, we'll just kind of run it back with some kids. I mean, okay, fine. It's awfully weird to see this as like the response to what happened with Ghostbusters 2016, which was, of course, the uh, all-female iteration reboot, as it were, that had a lot of ridiculous backlash and fan entitlement going on, leading into a lot of misogyny levied at the actors and racism levied at Leslie Jones. In general, just an example of our current culture war. So,
Totally had blocked that out. I can't believe I missed that at the top. I totally had
yeah,
blocked that
yeah.
movie out.
So and not the movie was that great, but I think comedically it actually had a lot more to do with the original DNA anyway. But I said it was surprising. It's not surprising. They just completely went back. Let's just do exactly what the fans want and do the old thing again, because this is exactly what happened with Rise of Skywalker after the Last Jedi. Just capitulating to the lowest common denominator. And I guess the question remains: like, is Ghostbusters a sacred cow that needs this kind of reverence in the first place?
No, no, of course not. It's not, and it really is. I think like you've mentioned, this is a total nostalgia play, and it's just really glomming money from these 80s babies who are like, man, Ghostbusters growing up, my parents loved it, I watched it all the time, wore the suits for Halloween,
You got
now my
Finn
kids wear
Wolfhard
the
in here,
suits.
man. We already know to expect this from him with Stranger Things.
Yeah, like it just there's nothing unique or like really outstanding about this movie. Like you mentioned, some parts are entertaining. I really liked the scene where they're chasing Muncher. You know, it's the first time they're really like busting a ghost, I guess, using the
Mm.
proton pack, driving the car around. Thought that was pretty good. I really liked some of the ending stuff. I actually thought the opening was pretty interesting too. You know, you kind of
Mhm.
have like the out of frame old man. Obviously, the trying to bust this ghost goes wrong. Okay, this looks pretty good. There's so much BS in the middle, dude. That like I just was like, we could have chopped so much of this out. Um, Also, just like it just is like such a like weird way to rope Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and man, I'm forgetting the other guy's name. Um,
Yeah,
the other original
what's his name? Eddie.
Ghostbuster, Eddie Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson.
Sorry,
Sorry. Yeah.
all respect to Ernie Hudson out there. Just like such a weird way to like rope them in that like she gets one phone call, she calls a Ghostbuster, and Dan Aykroyd's like, yeah, he didn't help us out, and he thought the apocalypse was happening, and we didn't listen to him. And it's like, really, like you guys are like these Ghostbusting people, and you couldn't believe that like this like crazy ghost was coming. Like I don't know, feels like. It's like a strange stretch there to me.
Hmm,
I
yeah.
just was kind of like, didn't really buy that. But I also I left walked away thinking McKenna Grace.
Mm,
I thought she was pretty good for for a kid. Obviously, we're grading on the kid scale here, but I really liked her performance. Finn Wolfhard was kind of like whatever. Did not like podcasts.
mhm.
I just did not find him fun. But the little baby marshmallows, marshmallow men were pretty funny. By far
That
my
was
favorite part.
hilarious. I
So,
love that. I was actually like legitimately laughing when the Marshmallow Men were like
oh,
started the torment Paul Rudd and all that, and then they come back to
amazing,
the car. That was really funny.
amazing! At the emptiest Walmart I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Empty.
yeah. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, right? The podcast character, I did laugh at like his stupid jokes a fair amount. It's kind of weird that like his name is literally podcast though.
Yeah,
You know, I don't
they
know. I
couldn't
mean,
give him
they
a
shot this in 2019, pre-pandemic,
yeah.
but I guess that read on things is perhaps even a little dated. Um, but yeah, like the whole like nostalgia play, right? It's like it's so like in your face, and not necessarily that it's not offensive. It's just kind of callous. Like they're literally driving up the mountain in El Camino, sitting in the back. No one has fucking El Camino anymore, man. They're going to a drive-in diner like a Sonic, but it's not a Sonic. It's like an original like
Spinners.
mom and pop diner with skating waiters. Like, what? Are you serious? You
It's
know,
called Spinners, and then the P gets shot by the proton torpedo, so then it's Sinners. I was like, oh
good stuff.
yeah. They said shit a lot in this movie, which I was like, for a kids movie or for a young adult movie, I was like, huh. Wonder if this is. I wonder how many they're allowed to say first of all before like the rating goes up.
I
I don't
believe it
know.
was PG
Surprised me.
13, right?
I
Like,
think so,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
it'd
just
have to be
noticed it.
because they nod to sex and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, third base, and also Carrie Coon, Paul Rudd just going at it as possessed people. Pretty interesting.
yeah,
What'd
that's
you think about
honestly
them?
that's where the movie I think like basically falls off. Right, like the end is kind of annoying. It's like, you know who I was not invested in? Gozer coming back. Don't give a fuck.
Well, right. So this is a pure sequel to the original two. You really had to bring Gozer back, bro. Like, there's no other evil ghosts to fight. It's just Gozer all the time. Shout out Olivia Wilde, but Gozer.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like if you had like maybe stripped down Ghostbusters, all on nostalgia, vibes, 80s, but you also kept it like smaller scale, just busting some ghost, having some coming of age stuff going on in the small town. My mom might meet someone too. That would have been great. That's totally cool, you know? We didn't need this whole like mythology about Gozer in the mountain and you know the dude who built the town who's referenced in the original movie who's like sleeping in the coffin, right? Like
Oh yeah.
that was just like levels beyond. We don't need that, right?
Well,
Because
wasn't he
it's
J.K. Simmons too? Like,
yes, that's who it was. I was
so
gonna say
random.
Terrence Stamp from Last Night in Soho. Yeah, it was JK. Like we didn't need any of that, you know. It was because in the process you just kind of like short shrift everyone in the supporting role because you just stop having any character development because you have to service this annoying plot and finish it off. You know, like I didn't need Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon to get possessed. You know, it would have been cooler. I feel like if they just kind of have a meet cute and a romance and lose track of their kids who are busting ghosts. I don't know, not to like rewrite the movie, but like I guess it's kind of safe, like you said, right? Let's just get all these ghosts and demon dogs and shit going on and sell some toys. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty formulaic. I mean, I literally had a kid in the theater when Muncher, they first see him go, "Oh, it's Slimer," and then obviously it wasn't, and the kid's like, "Slimer looks weird." Like literally, a kid was exclaiming this in the theater, and it's like, yeah, they're just taking all the beats. So they're like, "Oh, I can sell a Muncher toy now." Oh, instead of a big marshmallow man, look at all these little marshmallow men that now you can buy your kids for Christmas
Right.
this year. It's just very commercial.
Well,
It's
and right, and again, like I said, similar to Jurassic World, similar to Force Awakens, and it sets up a very similar problem because you bring back the OG cast that is very popular and beloved by all the Ghostbusters fans, and rightfully so. and we go back at the end. New York City reopen the shop. So now what? You're gonna make a sequel to this without them? Well, you probably should plan for the post Aykroyd, Hudson, and Murray Ghostbusters, right? But they won't because they didn't set it up that way. Because they feel like they needed them to. We needed to do the fan service, right? Harold Ramis coming back via uh not mocap, what is it? Just
Ghost.
yeah,
Uh,
just
um,
a posthumous appearance the way, Grand Admiral
yeah,
Tarkin and Princess Leia
CGI.
returned. Yeah, CGI appearance. On one hand, I feel like it does a decent job of like trying to tug on heartstrings and all that. Like I feel like that's actually paid off in a decent way. But I think creatively down the line, you're just kind of writing yourself into corners, or even worse, perhaps like Force Awakens, just writing yourself until you stop writing and there was nothing at the end. This is blank. The next movie is
Mhm.
completely blank. So again, I don't have a lot of reverence for Ghostbusters, so it's not like this offensive thing to me, of course. But on the other hand, this did exceed box office expectations and probably will continue to do well into the Thanksgiving week. So I
My
think
theater.
they're thinking about the sequel, and in a sense, I guess give Sony some credit because they are trying to do the reboot game hardcore, and they are finding some success. Right? Bad Boys for Life, huge hit. Jumanji, two of them, huge hits. Men in Black International, Charlie's Angels, not huge hits. But it seems like Ghostbusters Afterlife is leaning towards the hit, so they got what they wanted.
Yeah, no, I mean, credit to Sony. They definitely pulled this off. My theater was packed. I assume it will continue to be packed, like you said, into Thanksgiving. Two
Oh,
things.
so sorry. Did you go during the day? Is that why you
I
hit some
did.
kids there? Yeah.
I did go during the day.
Anytime I think kids are even in play for going to the movie and going to, I go at night.
Yeah, I mean, it was a zoo. They were running all around, but you know what? It was nice because they actually were like really into it, and so it
That's
made it a
nice.
little bit more.
Yeah.
If it had just been me, oh boy, I might have just been like on my phone the whole time, unfortunately. Um, just two quick thoughts. First of all, when Gozer slash Olivia Wilde like throws back the original Ghostbusters and they hit the car, I thought I would like that would have killed them. Like, dude, they're so old at this point. That was really, I was like, oh, like, dang, and
Good
like
point.
clear body doubles, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, Second thought in all this is really just do like Murray and Hudson and Aykroyd really want to come back and keep doing this? I like Aykroyd, I could see, but Bill Murray, he
Right.
really wants to come back and do
And
this.
well, and that was the thing too, because previous attempts to make a Ghostbusters 3 didn't happen because they couldn't get everyone back. I think Murray in particular didn't want to come back, right?
Mhm.
And some of them did cameos in Ghostbusters 2016, but they weren't playing their characters. Like, yeah, I doubt it. Honestly, I really do. Unless you're like throwing a lot of money at them, but like eventually they're gonna stop working. You'd think, right? I don't know. Harrison Ford keeps doing shit, so maybe they'll do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Dan
get.
Aykroyd's not like super busy, I guess. Bill Murray definitely has a lot more choice in his work.
Yeah, I guess Murray maybe just being like they come back to the shop and he like drops a few lines, kind of like he did in French Dispatch type of role. I could see
Right.
potentially. Yeah, I don't know.
You even had Sigourney Weaver in the credits scene too, coming back also in
Yeah,
play.
so very interesting. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Good for them. Good for them.
It's the
Um,
thing.
Dave, we also watched two other movies, which we could have watched at home. And I did watch both at home. I think you saw one in theaters. The one we both watched at home was Tick Tick Boom, the movie directed by Lin Manuel Miranda, his live action debut, I believe.
Yes.
Um,
Film directorial debut. Yep.
and he is, yeah, film, good distinction. He has done a lot of other live action stuff. It follows the life of Jonathan Larson, biopic, I guess, about him. It's like
Yeah.
interesting to like what genre this totally falls in, but Jonathan Larson, who was the writer and creator of Broadway shows like Tick Tick Boom, which the movie is named after, and Rent, most notably, I'd say to most people,
Yep.
and mostly about his like first show that he's like creating in like his life around that time. Um, I gotta be honest, our guy Andrew Garfield playing Jonathan Larson thought he killed it. Was super pumped. I thought this movie was great. How did you feel watching Tick Tick Boom?
I also was really pleased with it. I really did enjoy it. Um, didn't really know what it was going in. You know, it's like like Tick Tick Boom, not as famous as Rent. I think that goes without saying. But also like Tick Tick Boom, the musical, which is what's being adapted by Lynn here. That musical, of course, famously, infamously, was not brought to stage by Jonathan Larson because of his untimely sudden passing right when Rent was coming out. So it's funny to think of it as a biopic, right? Because it's actually an original work created by the man, and not all of it's completely real. You know, it's like semi autobiographical in the sense. It's kind of funny to wrap your head around like the how all this connects, right? But I think the movie does a nice job of keynoting and noting on like a tribute to Jonathan Larson, obviously a huge theater figure who people like to think perhaps could have gone down as truly one of the greatest ever if he hadn't passed, in terms of this, the best people making musicals. So what you get though is, as you said, I think a really compelling turn from Andrew Garfield, despite the fact that he's not like this huge song and dance man, you know, but he
No.
still really does a really good job. And I think Lynn too brings a really good cinematic touch to this movie. It doesn't come across as just a blatant, simple stage adaptation. I think it
Mhm.
works as a film. So yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing is, um, it felt like a movie, but the songs and some of the ways that it weaved into things definitely held some of that original work, and stage presence to it. Yeah, Garfield absolutely, I thought, nailed this. Not only does he, kind of embody the look. If you could look up pictures of Jonathan Larson, definitely has, I think, the look down, but just overall brings a presence to the role. He's like, obviously the movie Tick Tick Boom. The title is like referencing this feeling that Jonathan Larson kind of has in his life, like time is like running out, or like or moving towards this like big explosion. And Garfield really like plays like him on this edge really well, and I think his like energy and like, I don't know if neuroticism is necessarily the right word, but like kind of what comes across in this is just like super compelling, and all of the emotional moments hit. I thought he played it all well, and I think about I think about his role in Social Network, and I feel like there were moments when he really taps into the way he portrayed Eduardo in that movie. Like, especially when he's like talking to his girlfriend and like talking about how he has to do the show, it has to this, and he's like kind of like whining, but also like fighting and like angry, and it just is like, man, I was just super pumped to see him like that. Um, I saw you laughing. Was there something about that callback that you liked?
Oh, I just remember lawyer up, asshole.
Yeah,
Social Network, best movie of the 2010s. Check
it's
out our
great.
best movies of the 2010s on youtube.com/nostalgia pod. Have a lot more thoughts on that. Yeah, I mean, isn't it great that Garfield is back to doing some cool parts, as Tammy Faye, I thought he did a good job. I think the failings of that film rest more on the script and the structure of the film than the performances. I liked him in that. Um, but yeah, he's really compelling as leading man in Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I also really liked his friend Michael Robin De Jesus.
Yes,
I thought he
from
was fantastic in this.
saw him in The Boys in the Band on Netflix last year.
But yeah, he brought a real emotional presence, and I think obviously incredibly necessary. I wasn't I wasn't super aware of Jonathan Larson's story, so having uh, Robin De Jesus as Michael, I think adds in so much to like understand the direction that Larson's work goes in, especially like the material of Rent, like obviously being based
Yeah.
off of all these people that he was experiencing the loss of in his life. So I thought it also brought a real sense of like humanizing this like kind of neurotic character, which you really need when you have like this like crazed genius kind of like that you're following along, because you could just be like, oh, this guy's a fucking dick, and it's like, no, he has this friend who like really cares about him, and like obviously he cares about back and brought a real sense of humanity too. So thought he was crucial to it.
Definitely.
What else worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, just to that point, it's if this movie maybe wasn't done as well, you might not sympathize or root for Jonathan quite as much because, like, on his face, he's like, he's barely surviving. He doesn't pay his utility bill, and it's not that he necessarily can. It's just he's so focused on his creative dream, which, as we know, is not exactly the most lucrative thing to occupy all your time. Um, but having Michael there presenting the other side of things, right? Sacrificing, giving up in a certain sense, right? Because Jonathan prevents him as, oh, he's this amazing actor, right? And later on, Michael is like, no, I was a mediocre actor in New York City. There's a lot of those. I really liked how they handled that. And they tried to, naturally throughout the course of the movie lift up like Jonathan's, genius as a creator because all the other characters just really seem to, believe it. And I think speaks to how the movie's scripted and all that. Um, Nice to see Vanessa Hudgens in
Yeah,
this. Obviously, as we know, she does have good pipes, and she's I think picking lots of roles that benefit her in that. Like she did like that the Grease like live rendition a few years back. So cool just to see her in the ensemble. Definitely good. And then Alexandra Shipp as the girlfriend dancer character.
yeah.
I haven't really seen too much of her since like X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, where she played Storm. That's when I first became aware of her. But I thought she also was a nice presence. Obviously this is a Jonathan story, Jonathan movie. Garfield's in most. It's all really about him, but he's going to do a decent job of still coloring in his supporting characters enough that they're not super, ciphery.
Yeah, going back to Hudgens real quick, the song she gets to sing really really hit a chord for me, and I just thought that really worked. I thought basically the last like 20 minutes, like the emotional beats, really were just uh, really working and super strong. Um, just a couple other people I want to shout out real quick. Bradley Whitford getting a nice little like role here, which his career post West Wing has been pretty interesting, like up and down. Like I guess West Wing was also around the time he was like Billy Madison and stuff like that. But I just think he's really found his like niche, and like these like side character roles just really fit
Yes.
for him. But playing
Yeah.
Sondheim, good look.
Yeah. I thought it was very convincing too.
I
Looked
agree.
like him, sounded like him. I love that bit where he's on stage with Richard Kine's character, and
Yeah.
they're just completely saying the opposite thing at all times. It's so funny.
But Khan's like, I was gonna say that. Like,
Yeah,
we're saying the same thing, but no.
yeah. It's,
Thought
it's
that
like
was
I thought
great.
it was bad. I thought it was good. Right. And when I say it was bad, it was because it was good. I love
Yeah.
that shit. Just some wise ass. Really funny.
Um, I I also really loved the all the cameos in the Sunday brunch musical
Mm,
number.
the
You
Lynn
get,
connection.
yep, you get Andre DeShields. I think Philippa Sue was in there at one
Yep.
point.
And Renee Goldsberry.
Yeah, and a ton of just like there's just a ton of people. I think also a couple of cast members from Rent. I didn't see Adina. Was kind of expecting to see Adina in there somewhere, but um, yeah, just some really nice touches. Did you like seeing Lynn show up as the cook?
Yeah, I feel like I barely noticed it honestly at
Huh.
first. Yeah. But I guess that's his thing, right? Like he
Yeah.
he still gave himself a small role for In the Heights
Yep.
adaptation, which he didn't direct, but he's obviously produced. So yeah, I think that's just what we got to expect from Lynn. But honestly,
Hmm.
I was impressed with the job he did on this. You
Me
know,
too.
and we're going to be getting more of Lynn the end of this week. Disney's next animated film, Encanto,
Okay.
comes out with original songs by Lin Manuel Miranda. He's a busy man.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question for this. We'll move on. Any musical number that really stood out for you?
Oh yeah, I really liked what was it? The I thought the first song, the opening number, I really
Mm.
enjoyed. The Happy Birthday song. I don't know if that's the name of it. I like that one a lot. Um, the Johnny Can't Decide song, more towards the middle, I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, I like the music. And I think
I
that's the thing.
like the music a lot.
If the music wasn't that good, Tick Tick Boom wouldn't be too good either. I mean that's the thing about musicals. It needs to be there. The music.
Definitely. I really liked Boho Days. Yeah, that where they're like in the apartment having the party and they're singing about how great like bohemian life is in New York City. I just really liked that whole feel, and obviously a nod to Rent in a sense. Obviously, they talk about bohemian. I have one of the songs pretty.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called. La Boheme, that's the one. So just like really good stuff. I was really pleased with this movie, like, and kind of surprised. I thought that this might be like, kind of middling, but blew my
yeah. Well,
expectations away.
and that's actually a funny note too. Remarking on the script and being impressed with it. This movie was written by Stephen Levinson, the creator of Dear Evan Hansen.
Mm.
Levinson, of course, was also involved in the adaptation of Dear Evan Hansen that we just got with Ben Platt, and that did not go nearly as well. It's
No.
funny to see how that goes.
Well, we're gonna move on from Tick Tick Boom now to King Richard. Um, Will Smith's back, baby. Uh, King Richard, following the life of Richard Williams, the I guess somewhat controversial father to Serena and Venus Williams. This movie is directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, up and coming director. But I mean, really, the story is Will Smith in this role. Seems like a real star turn. Seems like potential Oscar worthy performance. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk
What
about the
was
Oscar stuff at the end, but
yeah?
Best Actor nomination, that's happening.
You think so?
Oh yeah,
So,
easily.
did you like
Lock
the
it in.
movie? Did you
I
like
did
King
like it.
Richard?
I thought it was awesome, honestly. It doesn't necessarily wow you with being something you haven't seen before, but it's just there. I think so much of it's really well done and executed on, and there's a few key decisions that the way they were made really prop up the film. I liked it a lot.
I thought it was really good. I don't know if I would say that it was everything I was hoping it would be. But I definitely thought I thought the movie had more heart than I was expecting, and it's not necessarily like a classic biopic. Um, in like the sense of like it follows a person's life throughout the years. This is like a pretty specific period of time. Venus's rise to prominence, or like the start of her like rise to prominence, I guess.
Yep.
Um, and
Th-
really, it's
yeah,
it's more of like a family story than anything,
exactly.
which is why it works for Will, obviously. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, it's a family drama first, not really a biopic, right?
Mhm.
Has biopic qualities, tendencies, but it's really just a snapshot
Mhm.
of the journey here, and becomes more of a Venus Williams movie once we progress, about a third, halfway through. But as you said, the, the heart of it really lands, and all that's all buoyed by I think Will's performance as Richard Williams, where he's nailing it from what I know from the footage I've seen of Richard Williams. It's Will's kind of hunched over a little bit, kind of talking with a Louisiana drawl. His hair doesn't look the best, yet it's still Will Smith. There's still a twinkle in his eye that few people have, and I think he just sells it all so well.
Yeah.
The way Richard Williams acted, I mean, it's all very, very, very reminiscent, I guess, you know. And I really like how the movie tries to take back that narrative that had been around Richard Williams, right? It's like the crazy sports dad, I mean, he came up a little bit before. You get like Earl Woods, Tiger Woods' dad. It became a common thing at this time, in the mid to late '90s. But Richard Williams, even though he definitely had some antics and he definitely uh, said some things in a way only he could, he also was a really dedicated guy, and I really loved how the movie honed in on that. but it wasn't just him either. His the mother, his wife as well, key part,
Yeah.
and it doesn't sideline her and make her just like the antagonist or the supporting figure, and that's it. She also has her own qualities in the story. So yeah, like like you said, it's not really a biopic, kind of is, kind of a sports movie at the end anyway. But the family stuff is what seems to be our through line here, and I think it really works.
And I think you really got to why I think this movie worked. And that's Anjanou Ellis playing Oracene Price, Brandy. Um, I just thought her presence in the movie really hit home the family aspect, and the family aspect is what I loved. Obviously, I think Will gives a good performance. Um, I think if it had just been about him and the girls, it would have been grating to the. It would have been a bit grating at some points, and I think
Definitely had a
Oracene,
grading tendencies as a person, as a character, right? That much is clear.
yeah, for sure. But I think Oracene really like that scene of them like fighting in the kitchen or in the house after he decides that Venus isn't going to play or something like that, where they really have it out, and she points out that it's not just your sacrifice. This wasn't just your plan. Like I'm part of this too. I think really hammers home uh, w- why this movie is good. It's because it's not about necessarily Venus. It's not about Serena. It's the other daughters are, I think, even more fun than those two are at times. Like the way that they're supporting their sisters and joking around with them and playing around, like them in the camper. Like these moments are really what made, or at least the message that they're trying to get across, what made these two successful is that they had this strong family nucleus that supported each other all the way and were each other's biggest fans. I think Richard obviously was the driver and like the decision maker a lot of the time. But I just think if it had just been about him, it would have been not as effective. So, um, you know, going back to Will's performance, I do think he like transforms, which certainly means he probably is going to get the Oscar nomination. I don't know. I feel like some of the like emotional moments, like I almost feel like he was a bit like subdued in
Hmm.
ways, and that was probably a choice. I think that was probably like he pulled back a little bit, kind of like the dad in like a little bit like toned down like dad of Pursuit of Happiness a little bit in this,
Sure.
but um,
Or he was Oscar nominated.
yes. So he probably, I mean, you're probably right. The Oscar nomination is probably coming, but I just thought he was a little bit less Will Smithy than usual, and maybe that's why he will get nominated. But I was like, something feels like it's missing here to me.
Huh, interesting.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I
I've
thought it was really
seen
good.
I've seen really strong reviews of his performance, so I have no doubt he will be nominated. Um, Tell me what you thought about our guy John Bernthal, though. Gets a pretty meaty role here.
Yeah, it was Rick Macy, is it the
Yeah.
second coach, the soccer guy? I mean, nice little nods there when he comes in, right? Referencing Andy Roddick working with
Hmm.
his crew at that point. Yeah, I thought he was good. It's nice to see Bernthal just kind of being a good, genuine guy for once. We always suspect the worst with his characters more often than not, whether he's
Hmm.
being a outwardly bad guy or at least someone operating in a moral gray area. So
Yeah.
I thought he was great. Really, he's a charismatic presence. He really is a star, and I loved his dynamic with Richard too. Because again, the movie does such a good job of like highlighting people's like frustrations with Richard, but Richard still gets it done at the end of the day. And I think nothing shows that better than Richard whipping around the golf cart. A few scenes once you're introduced to the academy, is
Yeah.
owning the place.
Well, what were the scenes that stood out to you most? Like, I love Bernthal, by the way. I don't really have much more to say other than that. I
Yeah,
thought he was
he's
just
good.
great.
I love the scene at the country club with the agents, one of
Yeah.
which was played by Dylan McDermott, and I think a great piece of casting. Love that. Um,
Where they're basically trying to buy her off
yeah,
or
well, they're
bond.
trying to get an early at a discount,
Hmm.
hoping that they'll just take the money as soon as it's thrown at them, right? And I love how Richard handles that. I think the script is really well done because it doesn't beat you over the head that the sport of tennis is very white and very affluent and very inaccessible, and just the mere presence of the Williams sisters in the space is different and to some like an affront and unwanted and all that, right? And Richard has clear acknowledgement of that, but he doesn't necessarily say it, right? So I really love how they handle that in that scene. I also really like the scene later on where that first like Nike offer is presented in the hotel room before the big match,
Yeah.
and it's like 2 million or whatever, right? And again, the way it handles that, but then again, they pay it off, right? Because it could really build up Venus and like having her make the decision or at least outwardly say it, you know. But I really like how they handle that stuff because there's a nice tact to it in the film.
Yeah, I agree about the shoe deal scene. I thought that was really good, and I thought it was played really well by Sania Sidney, who plays Venus in this. But just like the way she's sitting there and the conversation that Richard and her have, like, what do you want to do? Like, and really like putting out to her, and you see like the growth and like him actually like getting the message from the rest of the family that like he needs to be including everybody in these sorts of decisions. I just thought that was such a nice payoff. Um, I also really liked the ending scene, where they have this match where Venus gets iced out, and just seeing like Richard not watching or watching from the tunnel and then deciding to like go out and sit with the family as like Venus is having this, difficult game or the game not or the match not go her way. I just thought was like a really like great choice. And obviously like supposed to be heartfelt, but just I thought hammered home everything that the movie was going for, which
Yeah,
is obviously family. So thought it was great.
yep. I love how the tennis looked, honestly. You know,
Yeah, looked
um,
great.
they film a lot of like wide shots, seeing the back and forth, and yeah, some of it's probably CGI assisted and stuff, but really compelling. Honestly, tennis in the movies not always done in a believable way, but like it actually looked like good tennis, and you kind of need that when you have some sports movie DNA in your film. Early on, I really like the tension about back in Compton where you have like the gang harassing them,
Mhm.
Will thinking about taking matters into his own hands, seeing the drive-by. But then when the Williamses get their success and the gang kind of rallies
Watching
around
out
them,
for him. Yeah.
right? Love that. When the first coach comes by and like the gang is like, "Who is this?" and Richard's like, "No, no, he's cool. He's just white." Like it's
Yeah.
great, But again, this did a really good job of kind of paying things off in each act. I feel like,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And um, I really liked it. Just so Tony Goldwyn plays Paul
yeah,
Cohen, the first coach. I really liked his presence and his like back and forth with Richard a lot of the time, and always kind of like, "Are you kidding me, Richard?" And then like eventually being like, "Okay, like yeah, you're right." Like, I thought that was pretty good. Um, but also like when they first meet him and he just has Pete Sampras and what's his name, the douchebag guy.
McEnroe.
McEnroe, yeah, and McEnroe just a hothead, but I thought that was really really funny, and just like the little ways they would like throw those names out there. If you're like a big tennis fan, you kind of like tune into some of them. Jennifer Capriati kind of took some strays in this,
Oh,
like
I don't even know if they're strays at this point.
it's like
Those are like,
direct, I guess, but
yeah, sniper scope.
yeah, I thought that was kind of tough. Also, interesting that like Serena Williams, maybe the biggest tennis star in the world right now.
Mhm.
Kind
The
of
most
sidelined.
accomplished in the women's game,
Yeah.
you know, 23
Just
Grand Slams. Venus had seven. Serena
yeah.
far surpassed her older sister in due
Mhm.
time. But as you're getting to, the movie doesn't really do much with Serena.
Yeah, this is a Venus story, and so Serena's just kind of on the edges, on the outskirts. I think you get one really satisfying scene where she like puts herself into a tournament without asking her parents, and like is kicking ass, and that's kind of cool to see how they respond. But
Mhm.
yeah, just really on the fringes. Could you foresee a King Richard two or the story of Serena type of
I,
thing?
I, so I'd say no. Interesting that the Williams sisters are producers on this film. You're always a little wary of seeing that stuff and thinking it might be a hagiography. But again, I thought they do a good job of not sugarcoating that. Richard was a flawed guy, right? But thing is, Will Smith is very tactical in his film choices, and I just don't think you would see the benefit to him to doing the role a second time. Um, Especially if he won for it, but also like in the compromised state movie going is in right now. This is coming out also on HBO Max, but it's an adult drama. This is not going to make a lot of money unless it like has a huge awards run, which we haven't really seen that happen yet in COVID, so we don't really know what that looks like. So I don't know if like there's going to be like a compelling like thing. We need a sequel to this, right? I feel like it's just going to be like a really satisfying snapshot choice executed on by Will, and I'll be very happy with this, especially because it's a nice return from say something that didn't quite go as well, like Gemini Man, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Don't you feel like there's not a whole lot to gain from doing this Serena movie either? Because you'd probably just kind of be running a lot of King Richard back.
Yeah, I mean, I heard some talk on some different podcasts, things I listened to about, oh, could this happen? I couldn't see that for Will. This isn't a franchise type role. This is more of a like Oscar grabby type role, which I think
Yeah.
we're kind of moving towards. So why would you, like you said, why would you run that back? Makes no sense. Um, you mentioned we're going to talk about Oscars here. I mean, I think you pointed out and made it a strong case. Definitely going to be nominated. Do you see any other nominations coming from this?
It's a great question. Anjana Ellis, perhaps in the mix. Definitely supporting performance. Those I think are there. I mean, it's probably in the mix for Best Picture. It's a rousing family movie, you know, like it's popular.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think it'll be around. Honestly, I really do. Um, do I think it's a contender for Best Picture? Probably not. But it seems like we're gonna the duel for Best Actor is Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog, which is coming out soon on Netflix, and Will Smith with King Richard. So you'll be seeing a lot of Will on the campaign trail, which is a good thing. You know, he hasn't won an Oscar before. He's been nominated twice. Um, I would love it to be a his time thing, even if Cumberbatch truly is exceptional. You know, I have no doubt that Cumberbatch will be around again in a buzzy role. But like Will Smith, you know, Will Smith could use the Oscar, and I think it's more than earned with this one. So we'll be talking about King Richard. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I was just looking through, Will Smith's filmography here over the last couple of years, and he's been working fairly consistently.
Mhm.
Um, 2018
L-
didn't have any movies,
Yeah,
but
last time he
what?
did something like this was, you know, a good chunk of time ago with Concussion. You know, so it's been a while.
Yeah, tell the truth.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm looking here. I mean, what was the last role you really liked him in before this? I
uh,
mean, Bad
well, he
Boys
was
for Life.
exceptional in Bad Boys for Life. That was a complete
Yeah,
home run in terms of bringing
true,
back a franchise. He was awesome
true.
in that.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good as Genie.
Yes, surprisingly so. Yes, I loved him as the genie, honestly, in a live
I
action.
know you were a big fan of Bright.
I still haven't seen Bright actually
No, I don't want to
on
watch it.
Netflix.
Just don't want to do it. Yeah, I'm just looking here. I mean, before that, uh, man, Karate Kid, 7 pounds. Like he had a tough run, but I feel like of late he's
Deadshot,
been,
Suicide Squad 1.
yeah, he's
Not
he's
his
been in some
fault. He's good
stinkers.
enough in that.
You wait, did you like the one where he's like trying to kill himself, Gemini Man?
Yeah, Gemini Man's really interesting because like Will's pretty solid in that, but like that was kind of Ang Lee getting a little lost in the own sauce,
Hmm.
focused a little more on the technological aspect of things, like the credible cameras he used to make it, and just so that like the movie could not actually be shown in its intended resolution in almost any screen in the country. Like think we could just scale it back, you know, Will Smith, because like there's some really good action in Gemini Man, and Will's quite convincing in that. But overall, yeah, it's just okay. But it's cool seeing the theater anyway.
You know,
But
it, Just
he has a
looking.
big movie coming up next year, Emancipation.
I was just about to say, I'm
Fuqua.
looking here. We're gonna get back to back Will Smith nominations because this feels like the type of movie that if the premise that I'm reading here is how it actually turns out, could be Oscar baity as well. Might be a
Yeah,
little too actiony for a real Oscars run,
yeah.
but
Fuqua's a bit up and down these days, so well depends how it goes. But yeah, I want Will Smith to act as much as possible because he's at worst he's still going to be a movie star in your movie. You know.
so uh, Tick Tick Boom. You think it has any outside Oscar nom
Yeah,
chances?
yeah. I say the best actor field isn't quite like stratified yet.
Hmm.
I don't know if Garfield is like the most deserving best actor I've ever seen, but like seems like he's in the greater mix at this time for that. Other than that, probably not. I feel like it's kind of in like that like second tier of movies with
Yeah,
award aspirations. So
maybe,
depends how it
maybe like
shakes
some
out.
music ones, maybe like best original song or something like that. Or are these even considered original songs? Probably
I don't
not.
think they are. Honestly, best original song is probably gonna go to that Beyonce song in King Richard.
That's true. Yeah. Well, King Richard. Expect to see a lot of it in the coming months. All right. I think that does it for us this week. What do we got next week, Dave?
Yeah, speaking of the Oscars, you got more hopefuls coming up, specifically House of Gucci, Ridley Scott's second film of the fall.
Oh
Lady
yeah.
Gaga, Adam Driver, very excited about that.
Oh yeah.
We have I'm gonna be seeing Licorice Pizza in 70 millimeter. Paul Thomas Anderson. Excited to get to that. That's opening on Black Friday. I mentioned Encanto, Disney Animation. Also, Hawkeye, first two episodes, Marvel, MCU, Disney Plus on Wednesday. The Beatles Get Back, Peter Jackson's three-part Beatles documentary series on Disney Plus. Cowboy Bebop live action is on Netflix right now. Yeah, a lot of good stuff for the holiday weekend
A lot of good
or
stuff.
week.
So follow along at NostalgiaPod on Twitter, SoundCloud.com/NostalgiaPod, and YouTube.com/NostalgiaPod. R.I.P. Young Dolph.